All right, so today we are looking at regression, and we did already done the first bit of this with scatter plots and then putting a line on the scatter plots. Now that line that your calculator does with the lin reg is what's called the least squares regression line. Alright, and so on your calculator, that's our linear reg. Is what that does that. Alright, so regression. Oh no, my wife's going to kill me. Alright, regression is the process of fitting a straight line to data. Alright, so that's all that regression means. It just means put a straight line in. Alright, this is called regression. Better finish that off. And least squares is one method. There are others. There's median, 3 median. Alright, so least squares is one method, and that's the method that we do in further maths course. Alright, and I already mentioned that it's linear reg on, or lin reg on your calculator. Check which one it is. No, linear reg. Alright, now there's these other things that we're going to be looking at, not today, but next week, things called residuals. So I'll define what they are now. So residuals are simply the distance, or vertical distance, so the y direction, between the data points and the regression line. So, say for example we have a scatter plot that looks like this, for example, and we have a regression line that fits through it, say like this. Then this residual, this distance here between our data point, this point here, or individual points, and the regression line, that distance in there, that's the residual. And so there's a number of residuals, so all of these blue lines are all residuals, and some of them it's below the line, some of them it's above the line, and when we get further down the track sometimes the residual will be positive or negative. and our least squares regression line. What it's doing, and there's a mathematical calculation that does this, but this distance here, it takes this distance, it squares that, and then it does the same for all the points. Takes the distance, squares them, add them together, and what it tries to do with the least squares, least being smallest, is try and make that the square of each of those distances as small as possible. So the least squares line minimises the squares of the residuals. Okay, so what is the form of our least squares regression line? So form, what I mean is what's the line look like? So it's a straight line, so it has a similar equation to the equation of a straight line, which we've been used to y equals mx plus c. And so it is of that form. But statisticians, being statisticians, they write it slightly different to that. For reasons that only make sense to themselves. So instead of M and C, they like to use A and B, statisticians, and then instead of putting alright, so we've been used to in the past y equals mx plus c, where that's your y-intercept and that's your gradient. Our statisticians decide that they're going to put the y-intercept first and call it A, and then they're going to put the gradient here and call it B instead of that. So, and the thing is, this course is based on the statistics and how it's done in statistics, so you have to look at it like that. Now, just so that it's confusing, your default of your calculator has it different to that. But not to worry, we can. Alright, where it does make a difference is this, because you may have to work it out by hand. So the slope, which is B, and B is R, which is correlation coefficient, times SY, which is the standard deviation of our Y values, our Y values, over the standard deviation of our X values. And the intercept which is A, is calculated by A equals the mean of the y values minus B times the mean of the x values. So when you're doing the calculation, you've got to calculate the B first before you can calculate the A. Now when your calculator does it, the calculator uses this stuff to do that calculation. Alright, so let me remind you and define what each of those are so we don't forget. So where R is the correlation coefficient, the SX and the SY are standard deviations. Of X and Y. And of course, just as a reminder, the X is our EV and our Y is our RV, just to remind you that. And then the X bar and the Y bar are the means. Of X and Y. Right, let's put that down and then we'll do an example. Can I get rid of this left-hand side yet? Yes, no, maybe, no?
Not yet, nearly.
Alright, should you have to work it out by hand, they will give you a bunch of information. So, the question you might get something like this. Alright, so they're telling us what the X is and what the Y is. So our EV and our RV, they're telling us in the question which is which. And we've got 11 people. Have been recorded and following statistical information. Alright, so what they calculated? They calculated the mean value of the heights to be 173.3 centimetres, and the standard deviation of the heights 7.444 centimetres. They then did the same for the weights. $5.44 kilograms, I should say, for the mean and the standard deviation. 7.594 kilograms. And the correlation coefficient is 0.8502. And so what we need to do is determine the least squares equation. Alright. Give me a minute to get that down. We'll go through how we do that. And while we're waiting, don't forget to like and subscribe. How's that sound?
It's good.
Just mixing it up a bit there.
Make sure to remind them at the end.
All right. So those things I wrote down before was to find the B. Right, you need to, in your band reference, be able to find this. It's correlation coefficient times the standard deviation of y over the standard deviation of x. You've got to work the B out first before you work out the A. The A needs to use the B. All right, so looking at these numbers, 0.8502, standard deviation of y, 7.594, over the standard deviation of x, 7.444. And then do all this on our calculator and to 4 decimal places, and I'm doing that because it looks like we've got 4 figures in all this stuff. So for 4 figures, and which in this case ends up being 4 decimal places, but 4 figures, 8675. 8675. So that's our B, which is our intercept. To find our A, we need to use the mean of the y, and from that we need to take away B lots of the mean of x. So the mean of y is 65.45. And from that we're taking away 0.8675, lots of the mean of x, which is 173.3. And when you do that in your calculator, you get a negative answer. Negative 84.49. Again, 4 figures. So, seeing as our equation is the form of y equals a plus bx, when we put our A and our B in, we get y equals negative 84.49 plus 0.8675 lots of x. Now, if you did that on the exam, you wouldn't get all the marks. Even though what you've done is correct, you wouldn't get all the marks because any ideas why?
You haven't graphed it?
No, it's not to do with the graph. It's to do with...
Have the, like, centimeters and...
No, not to do with the units. It's more to do with the actual things.
Oh, writing the...
No, so if you leave it as y and x, but you're told that you've got weight and height, and you don't rewrite this with weight and height in it, you won't get all the marks. So you need to remember. So we'll use y and x in our calculation, and same when you get to your calculator, it's got y and x in it. You need to remember to replace the y and the x by those actual things that they represent. So when we do that for this, so remember to write in terms of our variables. Put that down here. So remember to write in terms of our variables. And yes, the units, someone mentioned about the units, yes, the units are important as well. If we need to do calculations and that, we need to make sure that we do include the units in those calculations. So this one here, we would say that the weight would be equal to negative 84.49 plus 0.8675 times the height. Alright. So if we have to do it by hand, that's how we have to do it. Let's do another example where we use our calculator. Unfortunately, somebody has stolen the data projector. So I'm not going to be able to walk you through it, unfortunately. So let's look at an example.
Is this going to be really long too? Or
No,
will it fit there?
not quite. But I've got a handout that goes in there too with this that shows you how to do it on the calculator. All right, so countries research the volume of sales. As a function of price. And then they've got this information. So we've got our selling price. And then we've got our sales. And this here means the sales are thousands. All right, so whatever number I go here, so if we're going to sell it for, oops, I've got my dollars there. So if we're going to sell it for $60, whatever it is, the 400 means that we're selling 400,000. All right, and if they sell it for $80, they found out if they sell it for $80, they can sell 300,000, and so on. Mm.
Jordan does monthly, yeah, 'cause that's what it was for.
All right, so this is selling price in dollars. This is how many thousands. All right, so if we sell for $240, we'll sell 50,000. $260, I'm not going to sell any. To the nearest thousand. All right, and so what do we want? We want to find the least squares regression line equation.
Is it meant to be a 180?
No, 180.
Oh, I just
Thank you. Can we just make one?
Yeah, make one if you want.
Well, it's gonna be
Make one up. 180.
the same.
Somewhere.
as 200 now.
Is it? That'll do.
So, you get scammed because you only have one just pops up. But you can see it.
All right, that instruction sheet I've just given you is the how to do it on the calculator, which won't be on the video unfortunately because someone's stolen our data protector. But that instruction sheet will be on the website. Physics with Sino. Sino.online.
I don't think it's even recording.
Oh, you're kidding me.
I don't think so.
No, it is called recording. See?
Still the red light? Yeah.
The red light's flashing. Yeah, and it's going on. 28 minutes we've done. Briley doesn't know what he's talking about. I would have to start again, Briley.
Plan again.
Don't want to do that to you, all you guys, do I?
Would it be that bad?
I might do better. I might do better the second time, you reckon, Riley?
You might not drop the text though.
Oh, yeah, I might need a new one to run out. All right, so on the instruction sheet. So first of all, when we get a table like this, which one's the EV, the explanatory variable?
The top one.
Always the top one. So from this, the explanatory variable, which is our x when we use, because the calculator uses x's and y's, and so that's our selling price. All right, and we want to put that in list 1. So then our response variable, that's our y, and in this case it's sales in thousands, and we want to put that in list 2. Alright, so when you do that, as per the instructions, and then you go to up the top here, the calculate menu, regression, and it's a linear reg is the one we're after. Then we get that table that comes up asking us where is our X list, and our X list is our EV. We put that in list 1. Our Y list, that's our RV sales, we put that in list 2. So generally the default is going to be fine for us when we do that. So generally we're not going to have to change. So then, after we do that, you press OK, and then there's this little screen that pops up, this one here. So this screen pops up, and up the top there it says underneath in this little box, the calculator says, we've got y equals a dot x plus b. The dot is just what the program has used to mean times, so it's a times x plus b. Then down in underneath that, you see that a is negative 1.71832, and it shows that the b,
What's the dot for?
dot means time, so the program is, the dot is what the program is used for time. So it means multiplication. All right, and B is 463.99449. So, before we go any further, and I've just noticed I've probably not on the sheet done it 100% correctly, because what do I need to do with these numbers?
You know, round them up.
We need to round them to the right number of figures. So when we look at all of this, most of these numbers, the vast majority of these numbers have how many figures? 3. So we really should be 3 figures there, shouldn't we? So I should be cutting that there, cutting this here, which I haven't done on that explanation sheet. So I should put my A in as negative 1.72 and my B as 464. All right. So according to the calculator for that would be y equals A, which is negative 1.72, x plus B, which is 464. So now what do we need to do to finish it off?
Change it to
Change it to our
selling price and sales.
our variables, selling price and sales. So sales in thousands equals negative 1.72 times the selling price plus 464. And that is it. So if you then press OK on your calculator underneath that little screen, once you've got that information off it, it will draw it for you. And then up the top of the screen there's this little icon that I've put on the sheet. And if you tap on that, that'll put the equation up the top in this form, but with all the decimal places, which there's lots of. All right, that's that. Exercises 4A and B, and don't forget, like and subscribe.